fuck is up, gamers? Your boy the Goose, we're back for episode what I can only assume is number 5 of Narcissu. Last episode, we broke out of the hospital, and in this episode, we are still out of the hospital. So here we are at chapter 3. There's 8 chapters, by the way, so this one, I might just finish up the chapter, because we still have to play through game 2, which is longer. We'll see. My time was at a standstill. I piled up useless upon useless trivia, drew information from the TV and the TV alone, and soon nothing was real anymore, fading away into hollow space. But I loved looking at maps. Trains, cars, I loved things that could take me places. I spread out maps on top of my narrow bed, changed routes over and over and over. Sedans, coupes, convertibles, rode on so many different kinds of cars. The number 1 route, continuing on forever. I ran on that road forever and ever and ever. Indigo blue skies, beautiful coastlines. I ran until I came at last to these places sketched in my dreams. Slowly tracing past the arc of a cape, running along the white sand of a beach, and the sun to my back. If I but closed my eyes, I could go anywhere, toward landscapes that I'd never seen with my own eyes, longing for the soil upon which I could never hope to tread. My useless stockpile of trivia was the only thing that increased. All emptiness, all the colors of yearning. The sky after the rain. The high-flying clouds streaming by at knife-edge speeds. The unique swishing sound of tire on wet asphalt. Oh shit. And through it all there we were, driving along as always. No destination, just the desire to keep going no matter what. It wasn't as if I was looking to go to Awaji Island at all. We didn't even have the gas money to get there anyway. But I drove straight ahead on unfamiliar roads even as I thought these thoughts. But where are we? I was forced to wonder. I didn't know my geography very well to begin with, and I was seeing all sorts of place names I didn't recognize. I had planned on driving onto the ends of the earth, but with the GPS navigation system broken, I had no idea anymore. And before I knew it, I started looking around anxiously at the street signs as I drove. I don't know at all. What? Well, I don't know where we are right now. She said something to me, and I'd given her a casual response, because she probably wasn't going to know even if I asked her. Aruma District, Saitama Prefecture. What? The next right leads to the number 16 route, towards Hachiaoji. You knew all this? Did you happen to live around here or something? No, nothing like that at all. It was a surprise. No, it wasn't just surprising, it was nothing short of a miracle that she knew the roads to this detail. Because no matter how I looked at it, she didn't seem to have driven around all that much herself. Then could it be, do you know the way from here to Awaji Island? I don't understand why you're asking. Well, see, we might be able to get there on normal highways, without having to get on the tollways, and we might just have enough gas money to get us there. Do you want to go there? Well no, that's not what I meant. Then don't ask me. Damn. With those words, she fell silent. And she turned to face the window with a frosty demeanor as ever. But she wasn't looking at the passing scenery. It felt like she was staring at something in the unreachable distance. Her, then don't ask me. Just what the hell was that supposed to mean? How would she have replied if I told her that I was planning on going? We simply continued on, no purpose, no aim. It wasn't as if we had a plan or schedule from the get-go. We just didn't want to die on 7F or at our oh-so-fake homes. But and maybe I was alone. But I must have wanted to show us the way, no matter what that way might be. Was it the same day? Swish, swish. It's cold. So it is. Some beach whose name I did not know. We'd reached the sea before we'd known it. I'd been planning on heading west, but somehow it looked like I ended up going south. Whoosh. A pitch-black sky and cold, windy waterfront. We both got out of the car and stared at the darkened sea. She stood apart from me as usual and stared into the distance, where the black sky and ocean melted into the horizon's edge. And after seemingly taking in the view of the ocean for a while, she slowly started walking toward the beach. Hey, what do you think will happen? Now I've got no idea what you're talking about. Do you think I'd be able to die at peace if I just walked into the sea? Those were her words as she slowly walked into the sands, her back turned to me. The third time was the end. There was no fourth time. The choice was between dying on 7F and dying at home. Apparently no one had escaped this choice. Those are the words that she herself had spoken to me. And yet on her second time around, she told me she didn't want to die on 7F or at home. This was after she'd explained the rules to me, after her duty to me was already over. That's why I felt that this is what she meant. I don't know, I've never drowned before. Then, if I walked into the sea right now, would you stop me? She turned her head to look at me as she said this, with the moon rising in the dark heavens as her backdrop, and her gaze, which had always been so far away, was staring directly at me. I don't know. I'd have to see when the time came. I guess so. She turned her back to me and slowly started walking towards the sea once more. Hey, tell me. What is it? Do you want to be stopped? Upon hearing my words, she stopped short of the waves. A strong wind kicked up a spray that beat against her feet. If you want to be stopped, then I'll stop you. Not really, that's not it at all. Then it'll be fine if I don't stop you, right? There was no reply to my question, but her feet did not move any further either. So that was her answer then and there. The high heavens of winter, blue and clear almost to the point of morning, strong north winds beating against the electric wires overhead. The silver coupe reflecting that blue sky on its shining frame, with me at its wheel and with her in the passenger seat as per usual. I didn't know where this was, but the real problem was that we were going to run out of gas soon. We didn't have that much money to begin with, and after various convenience store purchases we had even less, only about 7,000 yen left. Of course, I had no idea how many liters this car took. We had probably had enough money to fill the tank once. We still didn't really have a destination or anything, but if we didn't fill up, we could not go anywhere soon. I'm going to fill up on gas. I see. And with that, I turned the steering wheel and drove into a gas station that was coming into view. Welcome. Will you be paying by credit or cash? Cash, please. Regular or premium? Or regular? Premium? I had no idea. Well, then again, I had no idea about anything in this car. And on top of that, it had been a long time since those driver's license classes. Which one would you like? Well, there I was at a loss for words, and there stood the gas station attendant waiting for me. And then, just as I was about to answer at random because I didn't care which of the two it was, she spoke from the passenger seat. Regular, please. Huh? Oh, okay, regular then. Okay then, regular, full tank, paying with cash. Yeah, that'll be all. Okay then, thank you very much. The attendant skillfully began his operation with those cheerful words. The strangely disagreeable smell of gasoline wafted from the windows that I'd opened roughly 10 centimeters. Hey, are you sure that this thing takes regular? She said nothing at all to this and just pointed at the prices list. Oh, so that was it. It was cheaper this way. I didn't understand it very well, but I didn't think there was that much difference in price. And then I saw the gasoline meter and the numbers of liters being displayed. 27, 26, or 25, 26, 27, 28. The numbers were going up at incredible speed. Maybe I'd made a mistake. I began to get a little worried as I watched those numbers climb. I told him to fill the tank a while back, but I didn't have that much money on hand. Even with these coins, I only had about 7,000 yen, and of course I had no idea how much liters this tank took. What was I going to do if I didn't have enough money? I did some quick calculations and realized that after 60 liters I wouldn't have enough. 38, 39, 40, 41. The numbers kept climbing without slackening pace at all. I became more and more worried over something I usually didn't give a second thought to. Damn, how many liters does this thing take? I let the words out before I knew it. Don't worry, it'll be over soon. Huh? This is a 50-liter tank, see? And just as he said, the gasoline meter stopped between 47 and 48. The sound of a receipt being printed out, then the attendant at my window again. Thank you for waiting. The total came out to 5,240 yen. Oh, okay, here. I took out a 5,000 yen note and a crumpled 1,000 yen note from my pocket and handed them to the attendant. Alright then, your change comes to 760, I'm drunk as fuck. 760 yen. Here's your receipt. Thank you for your business. I turned straight onto the road upon hearing the attendant's cheerful voice. The silver coupe now in motion once more. On the bright side, I was no longer worried about running out of gas. On the not so bright side, we only had about 2,000 yen left. This worried me, but there was something that preoccupied me much more. Hey, question. Could it be that you're an expert on cars too? Not really. What do you mean, not really? You knew that this car took 50 liters of gas, didn't you? Of course, it may have well been that this kind of thing was absolutely common knowledge that I just didn't have. But she'd proven she was an expert on these roads not so long ago. Having been caught by surprise twice now, I took out the vehicle specification from the glove compartment. And of course you know the make and model of this car as well, don't you? Is that a question? You can think of this as a quiz if you want. Integra Type R Coupe. Correct. And the specs? 99 model year, 5-speed, max 200 horsepower. I had no expectation that she'd actually answer. I almost involuntarily followed along on the vehicle spec sheet as she rattled off figures with total disinterest. Length 4380, width 1695, engine displacement 1797 cc. Do you want me to go on? No, it's alright, you're correct. I put the vehicle spec sheet back in its place. I couldn't believe my ears, but she'd nailed every single specification. I didn't think one could just memorize these things, and I couldn't even venture a guess as to why she had. But right before my eyes, she'd gotten every single spec correct. And thinking back to the roads and flowers, I was getting the impression that she knew a lot about a lot. Hey, just why do you know so much about everything? It's nothing, just that I'm older than you. And with that bare response, she went back to her usual silence. With her staring out the window again, I didn't find myself able to throw any more questions at her. Older. It really didn't look that way at all, but this was something she'd said before too. Her name was Setsumi, her blood type was O, these were written on her white ID bracelet. There was very little indication to show me that she was older than me at all. Around when the sun started peeking out from under the clouds. The silver coupe speeding along. No destination, no place to go, just running forward. No more worries about gasoline, but no more money either. Only about 2,000 yen left. Only enough for 3 to 4 more days at most of convenience store food. Alright, so now what do you want to do? I have no idea what you mean by that. I mean we have no more money left. And so? Look, her appearance is unchanging as ever. In this conversation we were having while eating rice balls bought at a convenience store not long ago. Finally, the fact that even if we were driving along like this, we're using up gasoline little by little. Maybe it might have been better to just stay still without doing anything at all. But it was impossible for me to stay still without doing anything, without shooting for anything. And I kept driving with those feelings at heart. If we just kept driving on normal highways, we ran out of gas in about 3 days. Likewise, we only had enough for 3 to 4 days worth of food with the 10,000 yen we had left. We were obviously going to become too poor to do anything soon enough. Hey, do you want to try going to the Sawaji Island? No reply. She just kept staring out the window as per usual. I think I might want to. Why? Well, that's... It wasn't as if we'd escaped from 7F with any goal or destination in mind. Because, east or west, no matter where, anything was fine with me. But maybe that's why I wanted a goal and a destination, because anything was fine with me. Around when the daylight had given over to the darkness of night, I had stopped the car in the parking lot of a pachinko parlor. Obviously, I wasn't planning on winning any money through pachinko or slots. I knew there wasn't much I could do on just 2,000 yen alone. But if I were skillful enough, I might just be able to swipe 10,000 or 20,000 yen. That was my guess based on the many times I've been to pachinko parlors in the past. If only I had that much, we'd be okay in the first place, and we might even be able to get to Awaji Island on that amount. And so I told her about the plan that I just thought up. How about it? Want to try it out? No. Okay, very well. I'd expected it, but she shot me down immediately. I hadn't hoped that she'd cooperate with me in the first place. And I told her about my plan as a fait accompli, not because I wanted her aid in it. Alright then wait here. I got out of the car and strolled into the pachinko parlor alone. It was more crowded than I thought. Lots of pachinko balls, lots of people, and more importantly, cash boxes crowded everywhere. As good a place as any. And thinking this, I headed over to the slot machines. I inspected them from the corridor for a while. After having finished my survey, I focused on one set of machines. Lots of middle-aged salarymen, alright, up to 4 boxes at their feet, up to 2 on the racks above them, and an empty stand separating each of them. From what I'd seen before, these men hadn't come with acquaintances or friends. This satisfied their requirements. Perhaps in a place like this, no one would notice if I swiped one of those cash boxes. And in a store like this, each one probably held about 20,000 yen or so. And with just that much, I kept waiting there for one of the salarymen to go to the bathroom. After a little while, after roughly 30 minutes had passed, a salaryman finally stood up from his seat. After I tailed him a bit to make sure he was going to the bathroom, I dashed back to the stand that he'd occupied. And watching the people who were hitting the slots at the attendants, I slowly approached that stand. Then, so as not to raise any suspicion, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, I swiped one of those cash boxes underfoot. Clink, clink, clink. That moment, coins scattered everywhere with a thunderous noise. I'd been meaning to pick it up. No, I really had picked it up with my very own hands. But then they were unable to bear that weight as the cash box crashed to the floor. Everyone turned in my direction to see what the commotion was all about. I got the feeling that someone was shouting. I got the feeling that someone was running towards me. But that was all behind me. I'd already bolted and was less than 2 meters away from the entrance to the establishment by then. Slam. Pants, pants. I put the engine in ignition and hurried and floored the pedal. When I spun the wheel to make a hasty getaway, just then... Wham! Crunch, crunch. Eek! I'd run against the curb or something as I turned to make my getaway, thus the horrible crunching sound. But I accelerated onto the road before me without giving it a second thought. Pants, pants, sigh. My sudden constricting, out-of-breath chest and the silver coupe speeding out of the daylight into darkness. I was concerned about the crash a little while ago, but I had to distance myself from that place now. And soon, after 10 minutes of this, a fair distance away from that pachinko parlor, I stopped at some roadside and started getting out to inspect the damage. Are things okay? Yeah, it doesn't look too serious. She sounded slightly worried as she called out to me. I answered her as I inspected the damage. There was just a bump in the rear fender and a small crack in the muffler. Didn't look as if there would be any problem driving like this. Sigh. I let out a sigh, somewhat relieved. That sucked. I thought back there it would have just happened to the pachinko parlor. I'd slipped up there, but had I been a little more skillful I might have pulled it off. And the reason I wasn't able to hold on to that cash box was because it had been a while since I'd lifted something heavy. If I'd held onto it with all my strength at the outset, I might have been able to make it. So you miscalculated. Huh? The current you can't do what the former you could have. She spoke up as if she'd seen straight through me. But that kind of weight, so it's best not to think of it the same way. Perhaps she was right. I didn't want to admit how changed I was. Fair enough, I hadn't anticipated all that I could grow this week. Then what should I do? No answer. Eyes turned in silence towards the window to stare at the dark night sky. This is probably the way she was telling me to give up. So did we get the money or not? I don't know, we're about like halfway. Let me click into it so I can save. Save the game. And in the next episode, we'll do Chapter 4. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.